Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. Well, today we're talking about how Black Americans differ from Africans and African descended people. Whether they call themselves Black or not, the world looks at them as Black. And they only do this I'm not Black thing with Black Americans because if they don't know, I can tell them. As far as white people and everybody else is concerned, they are Black. So they need to stop bringing that conversation to us because it's just not working anymore. It's just not even hitting anymore. But what I want to talk about is how we are different from other Black people around the world. And the reason I'm having this conversation is because I believe that there are people and people who come from other parts of the world, including the Black world, and I'm using Black because that's what they are seen as. I believe that they think that we are ashamed of our ancestors' enslavement. And I think that's one of the things that they think that they have over us. And so I think we need to set the record straight. Some of us might be ashamed of our family members' enslavement, but many of us, and I'm not afraid to say most of us, are not. And I'm going to tell you why I feel this way. If our family members had been here enslaved for the length of time that they were enslaved, 246 years of chattel slavery and 88 years of de facto slavery called Jim Crow, if they had been here during all that time doing nothing, then yes, that would be a reason to be ashamed. Furthermore, if we were running to other people's countries looking for a handout, talking about, I'm over here to find a better way of life, when you've left what you call the richest continent in the world, run by Black people, your own people, and you're running all over the world basically begging, then that would be something to be ashamed of if that's what we were doing. If we were running all over the world looking for a better way of life in somebody else's country, begging for a handout, begging for a job, begging for a chance to go to school in their universities, that would be something to be ashamed of. But that's not our situation because we have been productive here. We're not running to Africa or some other part of the world looking for a better way of life because we've made a better way of life here. If we didn't have anything to show for these 400 and something years, then it would be a shame. We would be ashamed that we've spent all of this time and haven't accomplished anything. But that is not the case with us. We weren't just over here lollygagging around. We were building a nation. And yes, white people were orchestrating it. They were orchestrating it. But the real work went in from the enslaved people. The infrastructure of this country, and we have to continue to say this, was built on an agricultural economy. That economy was cultivated and operated from start to finish by the enslaved people. They had to break ground, they had to plant, they had to fertilize, they had to de-weed, they had to chop, they had to pick, they had to gin, they had to do all of the preparation and cultivation of those crops. The enslaved people had to do that. White people did not work those jobs. And that's where the money came from. The cotton, the rice, the sugar cane, the tobacco, the wheat, the rye, all of those crops were manned and cultivated by the enslaved people. They had to do all of the work that had to be done to bring those crops to harvest. They had to tend the animals on the plantation. They had to do all of the repairs. The slave women had to do all of the cooking, all of the cleaning, all of the mending. Everything had to be done by the enslaved people. All the white people had to do was sit on their asses and call the enslaved people lazy. The work that they did on those plantations is documented and undisputed. Slave labor was the foundation of the Southern economy. And before the Civil War, the wealth in the United States of America was in the South. I consulted my friend, the co pilot, about slavery as an economic engine in the United States. So it starts with the cotton economy. By the mid 19th century, The South produced 75% of the world's cotton, largely through enslaved labor, completely through enslaved labor. Cotton alone accounted for 60% of United States exports by 1860. The wealth concentration, the Mississippi River Valley had more millionaires per capita than anywhere else in the United States due to profits from slavery. Are you listening to me, everybody? Capital formation. Southern planters and northern financiers profited from slavery through trade, insurance, banking, and manufacturing, creating capital that circulated throughout the national economy. Because of the ingenuity of the enslaved people, this country succeeded beyond the wildest expectations of the white people who set it in motion in the first place. It was their vision. Working the crops was just a part of the contributions that black people made to this country. And it's so vast and we're so involved in it that people can't believe it. But it's really true. And we don't talk about it. We don't brag about it because we don't teach it in America. And a lot of us don't even search it out. And we're shocked ourselves when we find out the major contributions that black Americans made to this country. And that is why when these immigrants come over here running their mouths, it's so infuriating. But it is also the thing that separates us from the rest of them. That is why we have agency. That is why we have a legacy here. And that is why we are embedded in the Constitution, because the whole thing was built on the backs of our ancestors. We were not here just laying around being lazy, which is the lie that's being told. We were here building and creating, and we don't owe anybody an explanation for anything. If anybody needs to give an explanation, it should be them while they're running away from their own countries. Well, they ought to be over in their own countries building and trying to make something out of it. But this is what distinguishes us from everybody else. We were here from the beginning. Everything that has been built in this country, we have been a part of it. And I know that it is hard for these black immigrants to accept, but it's really true and it's documented. So we have something to show for our time here. Not only building this infrastructure in terms of the money, because the money was made from the crops, but the enslaved people built institutions like the White House, the state capitol, Georgetown, Harvard, the Smithsonian Institution, all of these churches, the university of just about everywhere built on the backs of the enslaved people. The railroad system in the United States. Now, they will give the Chinese credit for building the railroad system. Let's break that down. There are 48 interconnected states in the United States. The Chinese built the rail system in 5 of those states out west. The rail system in the other 43 states was put in place by enslaved people and free blacks. And then there are the many inventions that they did. Between 1840 and 1945, black Americans, including the enslaved people, held 50,000 patents of inventions that they had made. And not only that, all of the musical genres in the United States were created by the enslaved and the descendants of the enslaved people. That includes all of them, including country music, that white people don't even know or don't want to accept. All of the musical genres were created by the enslaved people. The dances, the popular and modern dances, created by the enslaved people. Literature, there is a large body of literature by black Americans that is now taught in universities all over the world. And let me just back up again. People are singing the spirituals in Korea, Japan, in Sweden, Australia, all over the world. They are singing the spirituals. They are singing gospel. They are playing jazz music. They are playing hip hop music. It's a culture that has permeated the entire globe. And everybody acknowledges that, but these other black people who don't want to acknowledge that our influence is greater than theirs. and they'll never be able to catch up. They can do what they do, but they're already 400 years behind. And then even the sports world. Black Americans dominate in many areas of the sports world, bringing athleticism and artistry to the world of sports that hasn't been seen before. So we were not here lollygagging around, sitting around trying to be Africans, as some people seem to think. We transcended Africa. We have transcended slavery. We are a new people. We are a whole new group of people. And the fact that they haven't grown and they haven't evolved doesn't have anything to do with us. And that is why we are different than they are, because they're running all over the world looking for a better life. And we're staying here and building on what was already started. To put it bluntly, we are different from other blacks because we have a different mindset and we are guided by a different set of values. Our values have to do with us not running, not folding, in spite of the challenges. And we've had some challenges. That makes us different from them. We're not looking for another country to run to. We're trying to make the one that we live in, the one that our family members suffer for, a better place. We're trying to make it a better place for us, a more perfect union. So anyway, y'all, thank you for listening. Let me know what you think about the video and have a good evening.